Tina Turner passed away within the past week. I got hip to Tina Turner in '84. What's Love Got to Do with It? And then obviously later on down the line, I realized that she was just really good before that, and she had a lot of stuff with Ike and Tina. What are your memories of Tina Turner?
Man, as a kid, I remember my mom's friend bought a Tina Turner wig, and she didn't look nothing like Tina Turner. And I remember my mom and her friend, like, this woman, she needed to buy a mirror or something, because she just bought the wig, but she was a big Tina Turner fan. And she bought this wig, and she was shaking it and dancing around, and everybody like, you need to sit your ass down. But that's just the only thing I can remember. Again, man, that was, even for me, that was I was a kid, dude. I remember they used to play doodles. That I do remember. They used to play doodles. Okay?
Wait.
Oh yeah.
What?
Yeah. Ike and Tina Turner used to play doodles. In fact, here's something. You know what? Now that you mentioned, you shook a memory loose. About 3 weeks ago, the neighborhood council that runs my area, she sent out an email about all the houses in my neighborhood that were once owned by celebrities. Okay. Of course, I told you about Etta James's house. I bought my house from Johnny Otis. Another famous baseball player lived around the corner, Johnny Roseboro. Rosie Greer lived in the same neighborhood, but also Ike and Tina had a house over here, right around the corner from where I live at. Okay. I know the house is she gave me a list of all the addresses. The reason why we had the conversation is I wanted her to add the N.W.A. story to Johnny Otis's house. Okay. And she came by here, and she was so surprised that the house was owned by, I carried on the legacy of music from the house. And in fact, a couple days after that, I'm minding my own business, and 3 ladies knocked on the door barefoot, tripped me out. Older ladies, barefoot, just walking through the neighborhood. And my son said, some white ladies at the door. Pops, they want to see you. I go to the door, and the lady says, Mister, I know you're going to think we're crazy. We were just walking the neighborhood. I used to live over here. And in fact, I used to live in your house. My dad built your house back in 1947. I mean, we had the house built in 1947. I'm like, wow. So she came in. I let her come in the house for a minute. She walked around, and I told her the history of the house when I bought it, because her dad sold it to Johnny Otis. But her dad was an architect, and he had the house built over here, and sold it to Johnny Otis. And I told her that it's the same house as Straight Outta Compton, and they'd all seen the movie. And it just was, just an interesting situation that, didn't mean that nobody, it only been something to us, but I had to share that story since we're talking about that whole situation.
Very cool. Very cool. Speaking of the legacy of your house, before we move on, let's talk Boys in the Hood specifically. We've talked about it at length, but I kind of have a specific question, because I've been to your studio. So when you walk in, anyone who doesn't know, walk in, it's 3 rooms, right? You got the room on the left, then you got the middle room where the green screen is, and then you got your room to the right where there's, all your electronics and stuff like that in your studio and all that, right?
It used to be this should be 2 rooms.
Yeah, break it down. What was it like back when you were recording with N.W.A. and all that? What did your studio look like?
When I first bought it, it was a control room and a huge band room. The band room got to be about 1,500 square feet. The studio itself is 2,200 square feet. Okay. The studio is bigger than my house, technically. My house was 2,200, and the studio, the house was 2,100. The studio is 22. Okay. And because back then, all the equipment was huge. Everything was big. It was like the prehistoric equipment, literally. Big 8-track. It only had was an 8-track. It was big. They used 2-inch tape on 8-tracks back then. Mixing board had big knobs and stuff, and everything was live back then. So you had to have plenty of room for all the instruments. And this was the reason why it was built like this. Johnny had just got a deal with CBS and got a big money deal, built the studio. And then he got another big deal with Back to the Future and bought him a mansion out in Altadena and left the house. It's abandoned. In fact, his son, Shuggy Otis, wrote the song Strawberry Letter 23 by the Brothers Johnson. So all that history came out of here. All of it.
Nice, nice. Dude, this is a real history lesson for anyone who is a big history nerd like myself. All right, so there's a backyard also that if you walk out of your studio, there's a backyard, there's like a bench and stuff like that. So are you telling me back in the day, the likes of Eazy E, Dre, just the who's who were just hanging out? Were they hanging out in that area?
We hung out on the deck. I have a deck right by the studio. I had a big backyard. Even with all the stuff built up, I still got a big backyard. And we hung out in the studio, and I had a patio area, and I always had a jacuzzi. That was one of the first things I bought when I moved here was a jacuzzi. So I had a jacuzzi in the patio, and we just had a ball. Johnny he loved animals. So where my patio is off my living room, used to be a bird cage, big old, huge open bird cage. In the window, it was birds, but he would let them out in the patio. And they would fly around the patio. He closed the patio door, and it'd be bird. When I bought the house, it was bird shit everywhere. And then he had a fish pond, a koi pond out in the back. I still got the fish pond. I don't want no fish in it right now, but I still let the pump run and let the water flow from time to time. But yeah, it's one of a kind, dude. It's one of a kind.
Damn.
Behind the studio, it's a mole yard that I never cut.
Oh shit! I don't think I've been back there.
It's well, since you've been over here, I took the room that was behind where the green screen is. I cut a door, a window, some other stuff, and put a toilet. I turned that into an apartment building for my niece. I've turned it into like a little bachelor pad. So
nice.
Yeah, so she stays back there, and I still got plenty of room to do what I want to do. I mean, I could host a whole bunch of folks here.